Any day now.
The Pro Wrestling Vault. 35 short stories including Harley Race, Ricky Morton, Tracy Smothers, and Tim Storm. Along with 300 photos from the independent scene, taken from Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Get your book today by going to WrestleVille.com or LanceByChance.com. WrestleVille. It's where wrestling lives.
Are you a fan of horror movies?
Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead.
What about cult classics?
Your move, creep.
If you are, you'll love Shocking Things. Please search for us on all the major podcasting platforms. To see our social media and a direct link to our podcast, please go to anchor.fm/shockingthings.
Everybody, Rick Del Santo here. Joining me, oh my God, the benefactor, Micky Byggs, is back. He is here on this Wednesday night, returning from a long hiatus. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Adonis, I see your menace in the chat. Guardian of Chaos, hello. Thank you. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Sorry for the we're getting a couple minutes late. We had a couple different technical difficulties, but we are back on track. At least I hope we are. So what's going on, Mick? How's everything been? You were not here last week.
Hear ye, hear ye. The benefactor, Micky Byggs, is in the house. And last week, you're right, I was not here. I was in Jamaica, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I was competing in a strongman competition, specifically what was known as Moss Wrestling. For anybody that does not know what Moss Wrestling is, go ahead and look it up. That's all I can say. It's a lot of shoulder strength, a lot of core strength, and I'm happy to say that I was in the final four. I did come out fourth place winner, but it was my very first international event, my very biggest event that I've ever been part of, and I'm happy that I came in fourth.
Very nice. Congratulations. It must have been a nice trip, though. Outside of, did you get a lot of time to do some sightseeing while you're out there, and you were not competing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I was at a beautiful resort. I didn't pay for a thing.
Beautiful.
Everything was taken care of for me. I never had so much free liquor in all my life. So
it's never a bad thing. Never a bad thing.
When I wasn't competing, I was sitting having, a couple of martinis or I don't know, margaritas or nice cold beer, whatever the case may be. But never paid for a thing. No food, no drinks, no nothing. Everything was just handed to me on a silver platter. And I made a lot of good friends, met a lot of good people, and a lot of beautiful women.
I can imagine. Yes, it is Greg Baylor's manager, Don. Why don't you take this, Mickey?
Not only am I his manager, gorgeous Greg Baylor is the next PW heavyweight champion. I promise you. And little backstory to how I ended up going with Greg Baylor. Well, back in November, I went to a PAPW show and had a little bit of an altercation with Mario Mancini. And from there, he decided that he wanted to offer me a lucrative contract with PAPW. I took him up on that. But part of that contract was I got to choose the wrestler that I thought was going to benefit from my 30 years experience in this business and benefit from that and take that to new heights. And that person was the young and up and coming gorgeous Greg Baylor. So yes, I am his manager, and I plan on taking him to new heights that nobody has ever seen in PAPW.
According to Adonis, can you read that? I can't wait
until I heal so Sunset could whoop him.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but
Sunset. I think it's supposed to say I can't wait until he heals. And just so you know, he's healed. Trust me, he's ready to go. And Sunset Steve, well, let's just say he's going to see a sunset for real pretty soon when it comes to gorgeous Greg Baylor.
Wow. See what you're doing, Adonis? You're bringing the heat. Bringing the heat in here. So, yeah, we've got lots to talk about. This is supposed to be primarily an NWA podcast. We are not, we are not discussing this week's NWA. I was not overly impressed with this week's NWA. The Power Surge. It was a, Velvet After Dark special, which I thought was quite ridiculous. I did watch some of the matches, but I did not stick around for the entire show. So it was really, really, really nothing to stay tuned into.
Well, unfortunately, I have to say, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, being that I was in Jamaica and I was traveling all weekend long to get back here to home, and the fact that I did get back home early Monday morning, I really haven't had a lot of time to catch up on anything except some sleep. That's about it. It was a long week last week, and the heat out there with the humidity just wiped me out. So I pretty much slept the last 2 days.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Let's see. I don't think I really watched anything last night. We had a great episode last night with the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy. If you haven't tuned in, please go back and listen to that because it was such a fun episode.
Absolutely.
We went 2 hours. 2 hours.
Absolutely.
And of course, don't forget tomorrow, me and Marcel will be here talking AEW Dynamite. So
I don't know, Professor. I think that's the best 2 hours I've ever seen you do.
I have to say that was quite possibly the best 2 hours I've done in an extremely long time. I haven't seen, I haven't done an episode with the Guardian of Chaos in, like he said, 7 months. So I said, oh my God, we got to do this. We got to make it happen because he's been on here numerous times and it's always a blast. He's one of my favorite people to have on here on the show.
Yeah, Guardian of Chaos. He's an awesome guy.
Absolutely.
I can remember back when I was doing my wrestling Spotlite show back in 2001, 2002, so about 20 years ago. That's when I first met him through another acquaintance. And actually, I believe we did a show in Connecticut someplace. We were on the same card. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was managing Homicide that night. And that's how I met him. And he was on my show, Wrestling Spotlight, a couple times. And he's a great guy. And him and I, to be 100% honest, we lost contact for a little bit. And now we've gotten back together again with PAPW. So I look forward to another 20 years of working with him.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's done so many great things in professional wrestling over the years, and he's still around and part of the PAPW family. There's a lot of commentary there nowadays, so
absolutely,
events. So that's really awesome.
And he did a bunch of stuff with some of the territories as well. So
He did. We talked about that last night.
Yep.
I think he was involved in NWA New England, if I remember, and I'm not sure.
England,
We
New
didn't get
England for a
into
little
too
bit.
much detail. Yeah.
I know that he did some other stuff. I don't know exactly what territories and stuff like that, but I do remember he was doing some stuff with NWA.
Right. So, what do you have on board for tonight, Micky Byggs, Mr. Biggs?
Well, since this is the NWA Spotlight, and we are the premier NWA show right now, and we talk about everything to do with NWA, past, present, and future, I thought might be a good idea to get into a little bit of the history of the NWA and how it got its start, and let the fans know how it got started. So it was back in 1948. I think it was July of 1948. I don't remember exactly. But it was in Waterloo, Iowa. Now, what makes Waterloo, Iowa, outside of the fact that it's the home of the NWA originally, that's the home of the legendary Ox Baker as well. So, Waterloo, Iowa, NWA was founded, like I said, 1948 by 7 individuals, I think it was.
Now, yeah, it's about
it was
1, 2, 3, 4,
Pinky George, Orville Brown, Al Haft, Sam Muchnick, and there's a couple others in there. I think it was Tony Stretcher was one of them.
Tony Stetcher, Don Owen,
Don Owen.
went on to be a legendary promoter in the Northwest.
Yep, and Harry Light.
Harry Light. Yep.
So, the 7 of them decided they wanted to start promotion. They called it the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, and they were the governing body for a group of independent wrestling promotions. And those particular heads are what made up the initial board of directors of the NWA, and they had operated the different territory system, which sanctioned the NWA championships to go out throughout these independent organizations that were member or charter members, I should say, of the NWA, and were allowed to use the name NWA in their promotional information. They got to book the NWA champions, and the NWA was, I would say, probably at that time, the largest organization for professional wrestling around.
Yes.
And they are the oldest governed body of professional wrestling, and they are still in existence today, as we all know. Yes, they've changed hands. Yes, they've done a couple of different things. They're not the NWA of old, but they're still the NWA, and they're still the oldest governed body of professional wrestling in existence today.
I think part of it that you missed there was that when they were forming the National Wrestling Alliance, it was also one of the things that they wanted to have one world champion, as every city, state basically had a world champion, and they were looking to unify all the world championships to. But obviously, that didn't happen over the years.
Right, absolutely. They still, being that they were members of the NWA, they were still allowed to have their own regional champion or their own territorial champion, but the NWA recognized the world title as the world title that went throughout the conglomeration of the different territories and was defended as often as they were booked to do so.
Right.
Now, I would say the longest reigning territory was the WCW, or what eventually became the WCW. They were probably the longest reigning territory to be with the NWA board of directors.
I think that's probably right, because Jim Crockett started. When did Jim Crockett start promoting?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know for sure.
The original, first off, Senior was promoting for a very long time. Junior started to promote in the what was it, in the 70s, right? Correct, Junior?
Yeah, I believe it was the 70s. Yes. Now, an interesting little known fact. Now that we had mentioned WCW and Jim Crockett Promotions, a lot of people don't realize that Vince McMahon Sr., who ran at that time Capital Wrestling, was a member of the NWA.
Correct. Up
And
until, I think, 1982, correct?
82, 83, somewhere in that area, yes. Now, what's interesting about that is when Vince Jr. bought Capital Wrestling from his father, and it became the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, Vince didn't necessarily care for the idea of the NWA.
Mhm.
And as a result, a lot of the promotions that were part of the NWA ended up going out of business because they just couldn't compete with Vince McMahon Jr. and his vision for the WWF and the vision for wrestling as a whole.
On top of that, he was taking the top guys out of their territories.
Oh, absolutely.
By in signing them, such as, those guys like Dick Murdoch,
Absolutely.
Dick Slater, Adrian Adonis. Well, Adrian Adonis was an AWA guy. Let's see. Either way, he was taking all the top guys from each territory, offering them huge contracts, and then they were, and so a lot of those territories suffered. We have a question from Adonis. Rick, do you like Velvet Sky as a commentator? Absolutely not. She's freaking terrible. No offense to Velvet. I just don't think. I think that her voice is grating on the ears when commentating, and then when her and Austin Idol are commentating together. I love Austin Idol and think he's a great commentator. Him and Joe Galli work really well together, but the bickering between the two, it's more annoying than it does to than it is to get to get the situation over. If you am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I'm sorry, and no offense, as you said, the Velvet Sky. She's there for eye candy. Let's face it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just knocked my microphone over. 2 nights in a row, I knocked my microphone over. So.
Oh, it's a good thing it's not Talking Tommy. He would have knocked the whole system over. So.
Wow. I hope Tommy jumps in here. Let's see. So, where were we going with this? We were still talking about the NWA. I'm going to try to get a list of the NWA champions up. There was a lot of things that happened over the years, and sometimes they would not recognize certain champions.
Yeah, exactly.
Due to certain situations.
So, as we know, the current NWA World Champion is Matt Cardona.
You love him.
The NWA World Women's Champion is Camille.
Yep.
The NWA World Television Champion is Tyrus. The NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion is none other than Homicide. The NWA
job, Homicide killer job out there, like no pun intended, just defending that title all over the place. I just saw him
absolutely
defend it over the weekend against Tony Depp in an incredible match.
Yeah, absolutely. The current NWA World Tag Team Champions is Mecha Wolf and Bestia 666 La Rebellion. Then the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champions is the Hex, Allison Kay, and Marty Bell. The NWA National Champion, who I really got my eye on because I see him holding that belt for a while, as we had discussed previously, Mr. Jax Dane. So those are your current NWA champions.
I think he's going to be holding that title for a while. We'll see what happens with that. And I think that at some point they're going to put him towards the world title again. I have that feeling.
I would have to agree that is probably a safe bet.
Yeah. maybe after the Pope wins it, which I think the Pope's probably going to take that title really soon.
You think he's going to take it?
Absolutely. Who else is going to beat Cardona right now? Do you think that they're going to put it on Nick Aldis? I don't think. I mean, no offense to Nick Aldis, I'm a huge fan of his, but I just don't think that he's ready for a title shot at this present time.
Well, the one thing I will say about that is Billy Corgan had his interview a couple weeks ago, and he made it quite clear that Nick Aldis at this point does not have a rematch coming, that his rematch is done and over with. However, he did say that Mr. Trevor Murdoch still had his rematch in the clause to come up. Could Trevor take it back? Possibly, but I don't think so. I do believe that you, Mr. Professor, may be on the right track, and I do think that the Pope may be the next NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
I just don't see Trevor Murdoch taking that title back. No offense, there was a little bit of hype for him going to take that title. It just didn't seem to take once he was that champion. You know what I mean?
I agree.
It seemed to fizzle out quite a bit. But I think that the Pope has a lot of people behind him, and I think there's been a lot of talk about it for months and months and months. I think he could take that title sooner than we think, and I think it's just I'm really looking forward to that. If you saw the match they had, what was it, last week on Power? I thought it was a great match. You weren't here for that, I don't believe.
No, I wasn't, but I saw clips of it and heard about it, and from what I understand, it was a very, very well planned, fought out match.
Put together.
Very, very entertaining.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yep.
Little trivia for the listeners out there, and do not, and I repeat, do not go look this up. Google is not your friend on this one. Little trivia: who was the 8th NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and where did they win it, and how long did they hold the belt?
That's a really good question.
Actually, I'm going to change it up just a little bit. Tell me who it was, when they won it, and where they won it. Not how long did they hold it. Where did they
have to answer this question?
Until the end of the show.
Okay. I got the answer sitting in front of me. Sorry. I cheated. If it's my information is correct, it's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So even though I wasn't alive for much of this gentleman's career, I did get to see him. Do you want to get into a little bit of history? I got some notes here about the history of today in the end of National Wrestling Alliance.
Let's do it.
On this day in 1955, the NWA All-Star Wrestling held a 4-team tournament in Vancouver, British Columbia for the Northwest Tag Team title, which had been vacated by Boris and Ivan Kamarov. The results were, in the semifinals, Dano McDonald and Roger McKay defeated Bill Curry and George Doucette. Ivan Kamarov and Gino Vagnone defeated Buddy Knox and Bud Rattel. Ivan and Gino defeated Dano McDonald and Roger McKay to win those vacant tag team championships.
Did you say Roger McKay?
Roger McKay, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. That was April 20th, 1955. April 20th, 1917, Argentina Apala and Jose Lothario defeat Dale Lewis and the Missouri Mauler for the NWA Florida Tag Team Championship in Orlando, Florida. April 20th, 1971, Jack Briscoe wins his second NWA Florida television title in Tampa, Florida, defeating the legendary Terry Funk. And in April 20th, 1980, Toru Tanaka defeats Kevin Von Erich for the NWA American Heavyweight title in Dallas. That would go on to become the World Class American Heavyweight title. I think that ended up becoming the world title for World Class once they separated from the NWA.
I believe so.
That was 1986, 1985, I believe. Then did Von Erich's second reign and became Tanaka's third.
Nice.
Yeah, some nice wrestling history there for the NWA. And oh wait, I forgot this one. This one's a big one. 1988. I remember watching this one on TV. Arnie Anderson and Tully Blanchard defeated Lex Luger and Barry Windham for the NWA World Tag Team title in Jacksonville, Florida. After Windham turned on Luger, Windham immediately joined the Four Horsemen, creating the most popular version of the Four Horsemen. And then that version was inducted into the Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame, in 2012.
Some good history there.
And that was a good one. I remember watching that particular episode on TV. I think that might have been from Superstars on the Superstation, right after Ted Turner had bought Jim Crockett Promotions. I could be wrong.
Right. I believe you're absolutely correct on that. I believe you're absolutely correct on that. So going back, since we're talking about the history and all that of the NWA and how they started out in 1948, the very first recognized NWA World Heavyweight Champion was Orville Brown himself, one of the board members, one of the founders. And he was the first official NWA Heavyweight Champion. And his reign as champion was actually, it's weird because he was the first, recognized as the first official NWA World Heavyweight Champion. His reign length, though, is calculated from the date that he defeated Sonny Myers to first claim the title.
July 14th, 1948.
Correct.
Des Moines, Iowa.
Correct. Yep. And he held it for 501 days. 501 days.
That's incredible. And then he was November 27th, 1949, defeated by Lou Thez.
Yep.
Let's see. Actually, let's take this up. I can't really read. It was he was defeated. Nope. He was awarded the title when Orville Brown suffered a career-ending injury in an automobile accident on November 1st, 1949. Thez had earlier won the National Wrestling Association's World Heavyweight Championship on July 20th, 1948 from Wild Bill Longson. Thez became the undisputed champion of all of wrestling by winning the Los Angeles Olympic Auditorium World Heavyweight Championship, the remaining major world championship at the time other than the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, defeating Baron Miguel Leone. I know I can never pronounce it right. On May 21st, 1952, the first design of the championship belt would become known as the Lou Thez belt because of the Thez long title reign, which was 1,941 days. And that's the belt that looks like a belt.
The crown, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, the thing is, yes, he was champion for 1,941 days. If you look at statistics on that, oddly enough, he was recognized as the champion, was 2,300 days.
Is that with it? Is that including his other title reigns, or is it just that title reign?
That's just that one title reign, according to the history. And then, of course, he was beaten in 1955 by Lou Nomelini.
Leo Nominelli. Yep.
He had defeated Luthez via countout in the second fall. Right, exactly. In the second fall, and via disqualification in the third fall. But that was basically the California Athletic Commission who had recognized that title change by the disqualification. However, oddly enough, at that time, both wrestlers still claimed to be the champion.
Yes.
So I think that's why the extended days put in there as being recognized, because although the California Athletic Commission recognized it, I don't think the NWA recognized
That's
it.
correct. That's right, and that could be the why it's in some places. I mean, a lot of title history back then. It all depends, whether the National Wrestling Alliance recognized something, and then or not. Such as, and I'm just using this as an example. Pro Wrestling Illustrated will recognize something, a title change, but you know what I mean. But the official company won't. So then it all depends. It's very funky how these organizations work sometimes.
Well, to give the listeners a clue to our trivia question, since we were just talking about how the NWA recognized certain things, when this particular person won the NWA World Title, he was only recognized as the champion in some states, even though the NWA recognized him as the world champion. There was only some states that would recognize him as the champion, such as the state of Texas, and there was a couple other states in there that would not recognize him as the world champion for whatever reason. I don't know, but the only thing I can say is that he lost the title to the same person that he won the title from.
Right.
Anybody out there answered that yet, or attempted to answer it yet?
Not one person has answered yet. Not one person, but let's highlight some more. Let's see. I don't want to talk about it because we've already talked about the person quite a bit. But we've let's see. Where should we go from here? Don't forget, there's also such legendary names as Dick Hutton and Pat O'Connor and Buddy Rogers that have held that NWA title. Buddy Rogers, of course, would go on to become the very first WWF champion. Actually, I think it was still called Capital Sports at the time before it was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. And then there's such names that were, say, this is really weird to look at. I'm looking at the whole list here that Killer Kowalski held the title, but then it looks as if Bruno Sammartino had taken the belt from him. Are you looking at the same list I'm looking at? But it's not recognized.
Yeah, no, I am looking at the same list.
And that's where the crossover is.
I am looking at the same list, but again, going back to what we said previously, there was, champions that were recognized in certain areas, but not others.
He refused to accept the title because Rogers had wrestled with an injury. The NWA considers the NWA considers Rogers' reign to last until Thez?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Which was... Well, okay, so technically, let me backtrack just a little bit. I did say the 8th champion, NWA champion. So technically, the 8th champion recognized in the official history is Luthez. Mm-hmm. So I'm not talking about Luthez, just to make that perfectly clear. When I say the 8th champion, I'm saying the 8th person in the history of the NWA official records that they've said is the champion. Now I don't know if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Well, really 3 people between Buddy Rogers and Lou Thesz. But they have a little, like, almost like the asterisk next to it that you would see like in baseball type of thing. So I'm not sure if that's they would consider that person the 7th and a quarter champion, 7th and a half. I don't know what the purpose of that is. So just keep in mind that it's not Lou Thesz, the actual 8th champion. It is the person that took the belt from Buddy Rogers initially in that lineage between Buddy Rogers and Lou Thesz.
I'm looking at it now. I know who you're referring to. I think. Yeah. I don't know where else to. Where do you want to go from here, my friend?
I mean, let's keep going with some of the history from 1948. Let me go back to my notes for that, and give me 1 second. Just let me get back to my notes there.
If I can find mine. Where the hell did I lose mine? Okay, here we go.
So like we were saying that they are the oldest governed body. It did start out in 1948 and a bunch of territories at that time. And then, as we said, the longest and the largest remaining member promotion was the WCW. And it was in 1993, I think.
They separated in 1993. Yep.
That they had left the NWA for the second and final time. And then eventually, the NWA would continue as it originally was, as a coalition of independent promotions, until Jeff Jarrett decided to start TNA Wrestling and signed a contract with NWA for them to have the controlling power over the NWA World Title. And that was, I believe, in June of 2002 until May of 2007 when that partnership broke up, if I'm not mistaken. And the interesting thing about that is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, just before that took place, was the one, the only, a good friend of mine, the legendary Dan the Beast Severn, was the NWA World Champion at that time. And history can prove this. Not only was the NWA World Champion at that time, however, he has never, ever gotten a rematch for that belt.
They took the title from him, correct? Because they were going to have
a
new champion crowned, which I never really agreed with because to me, Dan the Beast Severn, one of the greatest of all time, and he represented the NWA and wore that belt with pride.
Absolutely.
He was a phenomenal athlete. So, I mean, it couldn't have happened to anybody better really in that first TNA episode with Ken Shamrock, because the guy was legit, I just find it completely strange why they would just take the title instead of build a story around Dan Severn coming in as the NWA champion on that first episode of TNA.
And yeah, I mean, even if you had him drop the belt,
unless there was just something behind it. I mean, sorry to cut you off, Mick.
No, you're fine. And even like I said, even if they had him drop the belt to Ken Shamrock, or maybe because of the history between Severn and Shamrock, they didn't actually want them to have a match because maybe they figured that there would be some legitimate fighting going on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because of their history. I don't know. I don't know what the reason was behind it. And like you said, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it happened. And like I said, to this day, to the best of my knowledge, Dan has never gotten a rematch for that NWA World Title.
Right. I don't see it happening at this day and age.
I
Also,
don't know. I mean, never say never. You know, maybe Dan the B7 will be the one to take it from Matt Cardona.
also, not to mention that we're talking about how the NWA formed, and it's basically the same reason the American Wrestling Association, the AWA, was formed, because Vern thought that he deserved a world title shot at the time, and he was getting refused a title shot, and so he decided to form the AWA and award himself the championship.
Absolutely, you're absolutely 100% right about that. Just trying to see if I can find a listing of the old territories, so we can go over what some of those territories were back in the day.
Yep,
Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so what do I got here? So it looks like I got a map. Yeah, here we go. And when is this from? These are, let's see, it says the extinct territories. Doesn't give me dates though.
Yeah. And the funny part is, for one of the last remaining outside of WCW was the Pacific Northwest, Portland Wrestling. They lasted up until, I think, they were part of the NWA even after, I think, WCW separated, which is kind of incredible to think about, because they would never, obviously in our area, living on the East Coast, we didn't get a lot of that stuff over here, but it's incredible to think about, and it did not get a lot of hype, even in some of the magazines, as being part of the NWA. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So let's see. Some of the territories were All-Star Wrestling in Vancouver, Pacific Northwest Wrestling, and Portland Wrestling in Portland, Oregon, Big Time Wrestling in San Francisco, WWA, aka NWA Hollywood in Los Angeles, the 50th State Big Time Wrestling Polynesian Pacific Wrestling in Honolulu, Western States Wrestling Alliance in Phoenix, Western States Sports in Amarillo, Southwest Championship in San Antonio, World Class Championship Wrestling in Dallas, Tri-State Wrestling in Tulsa and New Orleans, NWA Heart of America, Kansas City, Championship Wrestling of Florida, World Wrestling Council in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Georgia Championship Wrestling in Atlanta, Georgia, which, as we know, eventually became what it became.
WCW
Exactly.
at some point, right? Yeah.
Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which is also part of Jim Crockett Promotions, which was
WCW,
which eventually became exactly.
Yep.
National Wrestling Federation out of Buffalo and Cleveland, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which eventually became WWE, out of New York. Let's see, Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling in
that was out of Canada.
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Canadian Athletic, I can't read, Promotions, it looks like. Excuse me. Which was IWA in Montreal. Northeast Wrestling at a North Bay, Big Time Wrestling in Detroit, Maple Leaf Wrestling in Toronto, and let's see, did I miss? Yep, American Wrestling Association, AWA, in Minneapolis, and of course, Stampede Wrestling in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And as you had made reference, all these territories that were part of the NWA, including what was then as the WWF, when Vince Jr. bought everything, he started raiding all those territories and pulling out all the top people, like you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, places like all the top territories. I don't know if anybody suffered more than the AWA. Really, let's be serious. He took everybody, including Hogan, and I think that ruined him. And even after Nick Bockwinkel retired, he went over there as a commentator. So,
Yep, absolutely. Who would you say, in your opinion, out of all the NWA territories, including the AWA, out of all the NWA territories, who ended up becoming the biggest star out of all of it?
it's a really tough question because there's a lot of loops and stuff like that to think about. Because there's a lot of loops to think about because I mean you can't really consider the AWA part of the NWA. It was Vern leaving the NWA and forming his own association. But the biggest star out of all of them has to be Ric Flair.
I would say either Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan.
I mean, I don't really consider Hogan. See, I was considering that. I thought about that, and I wasn't really considering Hogan as an NWA guy, no matter what tier. He didn't. He just bounced around in his earliest days, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
From wherever he went, whether it be Memphis or whether it be Florida or whether it be Minnesota, you know what I mean? He bounced around and he wasn't there for more than maybe a couple months at a time before settling in the AWA for quite a while and then being picked up by McMahon from the AWA. So, I wouldn't really consider Hogan. I'd have to say Flair is he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. He is probably the biggest star to ever come out of the NWA ever.
Okay, so now that we've got
necessarily, but yeah. I mean, there's no denying it. I mean, he's the greatest of all time. I love Ric Flair, but he's not my favorite wrestler. But
now that we got the GOAT out of the way, out of all the NWA, past, present, and future, who is the least? Who is the most underrated guy or competitor?
I mean, you're talking about like a light heavyweight. You're talking about a heavyweight. You're talking about a television
overall.
champion.
Overall,
I'm gonna go. Well, damn man, you really got me thinking here because that's really rough. I think I'm gonna go with Arnie Anderson. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. Not only is he my absolute favorite wrestler of all time, Arnie Anderson. He is underrated because he never got to hold that big gold belt, the NWA title, and the reason is that he was loyal to his best friend in Ric Flair.
Yep.
But there were talks at certain times of putting the belt on him, but he wouldn't because of his loyalty to his best friend. I find that interesting. But back in the day, the NWA really would have put the belt on somebody like Arn. You know what I mean? You look at professional wrestling today through Vince, even Billy Corgan, they have to put the belt on somebody that's a little bit prettier, if you get my drift.
Yep, absolutely.
With the exception of Trevor Murdoch. No offense, Trevor. But but Trevor had a good story going behind him before he got that belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many people are really going to care about the story? How many fans today that are younger than us watching professional wrestling? Most of the people that are watching are way younger than you and I. You know what I mean? We're a certain demographic. We're old school. How many fans are really going to care about the story as much and as deep as the story is? Outside of people like our generation.
No, I would have to agree with that, and I would have to agree with your analysis of Arn Anderson. I've heard the stories. I've seen it. The stories about, like you said, he was so loyal to Ric Flair that he just, as bad as he might have wanted to be the champion, he just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He always played that second seat, if you will. He had the tag titles or this, but never ever or did he have the 10 pounds of gold or the big gold belt?
But he still put on the best match of the night. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And speaking of best match of the night, the clip of what you had sent me earlier, that was a great match with him and Ole.
Yeah.
Against George South, and
I got the whole lineup because I'm gonna bring that stuff up here very shortly.
So that was a good match, I got to say.
Yeah.
But that was also another side of Arnie Anderson that I can't say that I've never seen it before, because obviously I have, but it's one of those things that you didn't see him that often in that type of role. He was always the enforcer, and to see that technical side of him that you got to see in that match, I loved it.
He's one of the greatest technical wrestlers out there.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing I do want to mention, you're talking about the most underrated in the NWA history. And I was watching this today. Now, I sent you an episode because it's the anniversary of that episode. So this came to mind immediately once I sat here. And Nature Boy Buddy Landel, possibly the most underrated wrestler of all time. Most underrated of all time. The guy, from what I've read numerous times, he was brought in by J.J. Dillon, and it was, I guess, prior to the Four Horsemen or whatnot, or was he managing them while he was managing the Horsemen? The lineup, the lineage is kind of weird for me to remember. But to have two gentlemen in the same company called the Nature Boy, eventually, now this was supposed to happen. They were supposed to feud with JJ managing Buddy Landel, and at some point he was supposed to take the title from Flair, but I guess Buddy Landel's habits had gotten the best of him, and then they scrapped the whole entire idea.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories to that as well. So, all right. So now that we've got the GOAT, we've got the most underrated. Who is the most overrated guy in the NWA?
See, it's really hard to say because we grew up during the 80s and watching it in the 90s.
One name comes to mind, and only one name.
That's a really tough one to think about, honestly. Trying to think anybody that took the belts from Flair. No, I don't disagree with any of them.
I will even go as far as saying that the person that I'm thinking of is not of the past, but he is of the present.
I know who you're going to say. I already know.
No, I'm not going to say Matt Cardona, actually.
Oh, really?
No. I am actually not going to say Matt Cardona, believe it or not.
I can't really choose right now as far as like, man, that's really rough. I might say I don't want to. Yeah, I can't really think outside of like Lex Luger, honestly, but I think that Lex Luger in the 80s, though, was a completely different species. He was not bad, depending on who he worked with. It was Lex in the 90s that after his WWE run that he just was very lackluster.
Absolutely.
But Lex in the 80s was a completely different person, wrestler, grappler.
So my choice, and I think once I say it, you're going to be like, you know what? That's a good choice. My choice for the most overrated NWA person is Tyrus.
Oh, I can't stand him. He's annoying as all hell.
Like I said, the most overrated.
That's what he's supposed to do. That's part of his gimmick. Yes, I got it. Andy Nichols, thank you for tuning in. Hello. We're just sitting here discussing the NWA past, present, and future here on the NWA Spotlight. And I'm going to put your comment up on the screen. He says, Mickey, I think I know you. Or I think I remember you. Excuse me.
He said the same thing last night.
Yeah. No, Andy's a great friend. Yep. He appears on the PWZ every so often. We got to get you back on, my friend, to sit here and talk professional wrestling.
He remembered me by one of my prior ring names from when I first started out in the business.
Tell us. No.
Nope.
Should I put? Am I allowed to put this up on the screen?
Go ahead. I don't care. I'm just not going to say it.
Was it alfalfa sprout?
LIWF, Long Island Wrestling Federation.
It's actually the second time that was brought up today. I did a podcast with Bull Dread 2 days ago, and he brought up the LIWF. I guess
we all did some stuff together there.
Was there a war between LIWF and ACW or something to that effect?
Oh no, God no. ACW, LIWF was long before ACW. Okay. Hell, that was probably. Well,
I'm trying to think. Yeah.
LIWF was so old that the Angel from ECW, Danny DeVito from ECW.
Tony DeVito, not Danny DeVito.
I'm sorry,
Tony
DeVito. A bunch of the guys. Homicide. No, not. It was a Homicide. I think Homicide was in LIWF. A bunch of people from the LIWF at that time went into ECW. Mm-hmm. That's how old LIWF was. As a matter of fact, if anybody goes into my Facebook page and goes to my photos, let's see, I can actually find it right now. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. It was a poster, two of them actually, from back then, 1997, I think it is. Long Island. It was a 6-man tag team. It was the Hurricane match. It was the Maniacs, Don Rock, Duke, the Pitbull, and the Behemoth versus the Wrecking Crew, which I was part of, with Mr. Ox Baker, the Tower of Torture, Golden Terror, Chief Tango, and myself. The LIWF Tag Team Champions, WCW's Power Company versus the Bums, Kid USA versus the Spanish Angel, which eventually became Angel from ECW. And there was an extreme hardcore tag match. It was Magic and Homicide versus 2 Hollywood, Jay Lover and B somebody. And then there was the Luchadors. It was White Star versus Cold Hard Cash. So I mean, LIWF goes way back, way before that. And then let's see, this was February of '97. It was the Mexican High Flyer, White Star versus Bandito. It was Larry, and this is part of where his comment came in. I was managing Jay Lover and Bandito last night. Awesome. Then there was like that night. Okay, I had it wrong. Little Larry versus the Purple Destroyer. I was the Purple Destroyer on that show, and I've actually got a funny story about that. I'll get into in a minute. Kid USA versus the Bad Boy Rocky Shore. Maniac Inc. versus Lucifer and Teddy the Tank. And then it was, that's the other one, 911 versus the Tower of Torture. So 911 that came out of there too to go to ECW. Okay. So yeah, funny story about the Purple Destroyer gimmick. I first went to LIWF, and I was there with Ox, of course. And I was there under my original name of the Powerhouse. And it was funny because Behemoth and Bobby Lombardi were the 2 main guys for LIWF. Said to me, hey, we want you to come out tonight, but we're not going to use you as Powerhouse. We're going to use you as the Purple Destroyer. We're going to put a hood on you, dress you all in purple, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, that's cool. So I can do that. Well, what they didn't tell me, in the very beginning of it, they told me literally like 5 minutes before my spot was supposed to happen, oh, by the way, you're coming out to the ring, but you're going to be someone that has been kidnapped, so to speak. So I actually, the Purple Destroyer went out to the ring, was fighting the match. Well, I came hopping out. In other words, the Purple Destroyer in the ring was a fake Purple Destroyer. I came hopping out. I was gagged. Had my hands tied behind me, had my feet tied. I'm hopping out to the ring, and I get out to the ring, and the heat from everything. I mean, it was just the heat was crazy in the arena that night. They pulled the hood off me, and I threw up all over Bobby Lombardi's feet.
Oh my God.
I was sick as a dog. So that was a fun night because that was not supposed to happen, but it did happen. And then from there, of course, excuse me. Eventually, as he said, I became part of known as Alfalfa Sprout, with what eventually became the Little Rascals of the LIWF, Rocky Shore and Tony DeVito and myself. So, yep, he knows who I am. He guessed it. Ding, 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 ding.
I believe Andy's from that area, so the Long Island area. I forgot where. Oh, Greenport, right? Formerly known as the Greenport Destroyer. So what else you got, Mick?
As far as NWA history, like I said, I mean the history is long and vast. Let's save some of that history for another show and talk about some of the happenings that are going on right now.
Well, I do have the match list so far for Power Trip coming up, which is going to be a TV taping for Power coming up. If I can just bring it up here. Oh, shit, where is it? Of course, I lost it. Right.
Oh, before you do that,
yep. Did
you want to talk about that show there, the one you had sent me the clip on?
Oh yes, let me bring that up in my notes. Let's see. So of course, this is 420. April 20th, back in April 20th, 1985. No, I'm not drinking moonshine, Andy. I am drinking, if this pops up on screen, Dale's Pale Ale. There you go. It is by Oscar Blues Brewery American Pale Ale. It's my first time trying it. It's very delicious, if you will. Let's see.
I've never heard anybody describe beer as delicious.
Well, what do you want me to say? It tastes like ass? I mean, it's great.
It's like delicious.
A beer. Oh, no, apparently he wasn't talking. He was talking to you. What do you drink? Are you drinking moonshine?
I'm drinking tea.
So NWA World Championship Wrestling aired on this date, April 20th, 1985. The episode starts off with an interview with the Russians, Ivan and Nikita Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev.
Which I love the fact that he was the Russian that spoke perfect English.
Perfect English. He did not have an accent at all. I'm going back a little bit. Like, did he always not have an accent?
As far as I remember, you know who that is, right?
It's Barry Darso. Smash.
Right. Yep.
Hole in One, the Blacktop Bully. I mean, I can go on with gimmick after gimmick. Let's see.
Repo Man.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah. So, yeah.
As far as I know, I don't ever recall him having a Russian accent. I could be wrong, but I don't recall it.
I don't know. Maybe I was just a kid and it didn't click for some reason. But I was
watching. I mean, I don't know, because you watch Nikita and you watch Ivan, and they've got that very thick, heavy Russian accent, and then he talks. It's like, what the?
Yeah, but neither of them. Well, the funny part about it is he's got this huge American eagle tattooed on his right shoulder. So I guess he was supposed to be an American. Yes, exactly. Didn't he start the Russian gimmick as an American trader? Yes, I believe that's what happened. He was a Russian sympathizer, basically. So
yes, I do believe that is correct.
Yeah, which I think is hilarious. Yeah. All right. So in the opening match, Buddy Landell defeated Mac Jeffers. He basically whooped the shit out of him. Typical squash match. And then there's a Tully and Baby Doll interview, the perfect 10, as they say. Andy, I'm throwing all your comments up on the screen. You're always correct.
No, actually, he's not because he didn't spell correct.
No, he did. He fixed it underneath it. He did. Look, I got it right here. I'll put it up just so everybody knows. Typing on the phone, sometimes you mess up. I do that.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Yep, and I have to send 8 texts to get that one word right.
Yep.
Let's see, and then Dusty Rhodes is presented with the new TV title on Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling.
Yep.
From there, Magnum TA defeats Doug Vines in about 4 seconds. Just goes straight for a belly-to-belly suplex, and that's it.
I must have blinked because I missed that one.
Yep, exactly. And then, then there was a Ric Flair interview, the typical Ric Flair interview in the 1980s. It was great. Yeah. Ivan Koloff defeated Josh Stroud. She got him in a chokehold, and then not chokehold, but a sleeper of some sort. And for some reason, he fought for quite a bit. They really try to put this kid over as saying that he's fighting very hard to not go out as quick as other jobbers. So,
wait a minute, that Ric Flair interview was that the one where he stripped down to his boxers?
No.
Okay.
I think that's much later. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't. I didn't get to see the interview you're talking about because I was skimming through it. So I know I must have missed that. But then when you
it was like a
said that,
pre-recorded interview, not in the same studio. So then there was a Paul Jones interview. He's talking about how he had surgery on his arm. You see the scars. He's talking about how Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant attacked him and how he had to have surgery. And there's video clips of Biddy. What the hell was I saying? Saying that how Jimmy Valiant keeps getting in their business. So then they showed the clips of him trying to get in the business again, and then they take care of him. Let's see. This helicopter has come up like 4 or 5 times in the last 3 episodes, Andy. I need to know a little bit more about this. Ric Flair's helicopter.
Did you ever see the helicopter?
Yeah, ask Big Daddy. Let's see. And then Abdullah the Butcher wrecked Gene Ligon. He was going for his eyes and everything.
When doesn't he go for eyes?
Yeah. Well, he didn't stab him or anything. Yeah.
If you've seen one Abdullah the Butcher match, you've seen them all.
Yeah. I got a chance to see him wrestle Terry Funk in a match in New Jersey at a Tommy Fierro show, which Dennis Corluzzo Tommy Fierro show back in,
right.
I have to say 1995. That was a really good show. It's still one of my favorite shows.
Have you ever met him personally?
Abdullah or Tommy Fierro?
Abdullah.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't have no interest.
So back in the day, when I was first starting, I had probably been in the business for 2-3 years at this point. Ox and I went to an event and did it was a big convention, and Abby was there, and I never realized exactly how deep those scars were on his head.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when Ox introduced me to him, he's sitting there and he's talking to me. And I'm just staring like a deer in headlights at his freaking head, because I mean there was like valleys carved in his head. I was like, my God, what is up with his head?
Even back here in 1985, he's got some deep scars.
I never realized how deep they actually were, though. It was amazing that the man still had a forehead left.
Let's see.
Abdullah fears Hannibal.
Then there was Tully Blanchard taking on TJ Tripe, Manny Fernandez and Thunderbolt Patterson interview. Then there was Dusty Rhodes took on Krusher Khrushchev and defend the TV title. This was Dusty Rhodes match in 1985. And then there's another Manny and T-Bolt interview. Arn and Oli take on Gerald Finley and George South. Magnum TA. Let's see. Black Bart took on Ron Rossi, and then Thunderbolt and Manny in a squash. And then they closed the show with an Arn and Ollie interview. So that show happened today in 1985.
Oh man,
I miss those days. Great time for professional wrestling.
I can finally see comments from everybody.
Yeah, well, I put them up on the thing.
No, I mean I can actually see them on
Okay.
my screen now.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep.
So before we get into Power Trip, do you have anything else?
No, I mean like I said, we'll save some more of that history for another episode.
For the next episode, and then we're gonna go over Power Trip really quick, and then we'll get out of here. I'll let you guys go to sleep. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night to me and Marcel. We'll be talking AEW Dynamite. So Saturday, April 30th, which is next Saturday, the NWA presents Power Trip. Oak Grove, Kentucky. The NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship Homicide defends against Colby Carino, Mike Knox, and Harry Smith. That's going to be the popcorn match of the evening. Watch. Nick Aldis takes on Brian Myers. Jax Dane and Magic Jake taking on Judas and Sal Renaro. And Tom Latimer and Rhett Titus. So they still got time to try to announce some more matches. This is the lineup so far. I believe it's supposed to be a world title match, I believe.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
I hear a ghost in the background.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that over there? It sounds like somebody knocking.
I think somebody in the room next to me is. Watch my son burst into the room. So that's it. Oak Grove, Kentucky. I always walked in on the shows plenty of times before. I got one of my videos because YouTube is crazy. Decided to take the video down because he walked into the room, and that was it. So that's pretty much it. Oak Grove, Kentucky. Next Saturday, you and I will be at a Paradise Alley show for taping.
Yes, we will.
So if you're in the area, go to that. It's going to be a great show in New Haven, Connecticut. Excuse me.
That's Point Blank, isn't it? And It's going to be on Fight TV, if I'm not mistaken.
No. The one in June is going to be for.
Oh, the one in June, right? It's for Fight TV. Yeah. That's right.
This one's going to be recorded for the TV series right here on PWZ channel.
Yes, sir.
So, without any further information, thank you, Mick. It's always a pleasure to sit around and talk to the NWA. Next week, we're going to do more. We'll dive into the history. We have a guest next week. Is that true?
Yes, we do. He's all lined up. There's actually a huge fan of the NWA. Like us, he grew up watching a lot of the old stuff, and he's an advocate for the new stuff. And he happens to be the creator of our official theme song, Mr.
Excellent.
Pink Hat Fingers, Mr. James Forbes will be on with us next week.
I am definitely looking forward to it. Don't forget to check us out on social media, Instagram, YouTube, all those funky places. And well, I guess that's it. I'm lining it up. Sorry. And then that's pretty much it. Enjoy your week, everybody. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. Micky Byggs is going to be joining back next Wednesday, correct? Now, one thing I want to say, we are rapidly approaching our 200th episode. We're going to do something really big. There's going to be multiple guests, and we're all going to sit here and just talk professional wrestling. There's not going to be any particular point. We're just going to sit and talk wrestling. So keep an eye out for it. And everybody that's involved in PWZ is going to be here and more. So stay tuned for that.
And also, let's not forget about the topic that was brought up last night by Big Daddy. And you and I were talking about it today. Eventually, we're going to put together some type of roundtable.
Yep. It's coming up very soon.
Yep. Put some type of roundtable together and have a bunch of people on and just do a great big wrestling marathon and try to get it attached to some type of fundraiser for some organization or something. that ghost is really haunting you over there. Get it attached to some type of fundraiser. Also, I don't know if everybody's out there for the PWZ has seen the link. Go on and get your official PWZ and NWA Spotlight T-shirts.
They're in the link of the description of this episode. So,
and if also you can go to my page. I have my official merch up as well. T-shirts, phone cases. It's all on there. And for every item right now, for every item purchased, because everybody knows that we put together a GoFundMe page for the former NWA president, Rich Arpin, to help out with a lot of his medical stuff that's going on with him. So that link will be put into the bottom as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So for my merch, every purchase that is made, or for every item purchased, I should say. So if you purchase 3 items, 1 item, whatever it is, for every item purchased right now from my official merch page, $3 from every item purchased will go towards the GoFundMe page. So if you purchase 1 item, $3 goes towards his fundraiser. If you purchase 10 items, then $30 is going to go towards his page, his GoFundMe page. So go ahead and check that out and get your official Micky Byggs merch, along with helping out former NWA president.
Excellent. So we'll be talking to you next week. As the NWA, I'll be talking to you all tomorrow. Don't forget, we got a great lineup of guests coming up, starting next week as well. Going into week number 2 of guests. So enjoy your night, everybody. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely.